Good morning. Hi, everyone. Give it a second here for people to jump on. It has been weeks since I have been able to go live. I was out of town and then on vacation and getting back into the regular swing of things now, which is great. So I have a little bit of time before a meeting, so we'll see who all is here. Welcome if you are joining. This is live leadership coaching. When I go live, I answer your questions about leadership, management, coaching, anything like that. So make sure you ask them in the comments here. That's it. People ask questions about, I'm dealing with this situation at work, or how do I lead, this type of person. It's really kind of up to you. And if I see your question, hopefully I'll answer it. That's where we are. I'm Alex. I'm a leadership coach. I've been coaching leaders for about 4 years on my own. And before that, I worked at an engineering company and ran their corporate university and did all the leadership and development programming. Before that, I was a lawyer. So kind of got one of those careers. But I love to go live and I love to answer your questions about leadership or coaching, or management, managing teams, that kind of thing. I was just Googling leaders or questions. Should a leader, you know how people do those Google things and then it fills in the blank. And so I was thinking about starting a series of should a leader? So the first one that came up is, should a leader be humble? I thought that was a really interesting one. Because I think yes, to a certain extent, because I think sometimes when you're too humble, you don't talk about your accomplishments or you don't talk about the way that you've led. I mean, I think there's ways, I feel like I have lipstick on my teeth, to talk about you and what you've done by putting your team first, putting others first, that some people take that as not being humble and some people take it as not. So I think we all have different degrees of which we see humility. But as a whole, yes, leaders I feel should be humble, but also towards themselves, maybe not towards their team, if that makes any sense. But the one that I was looking at, I'm oh, this is a good one. Should leaders ... know everything? And so I love that. Should leaders know everything? No, I don't think they should know everything, nor do I think it's possible for them to know everything. I think we get into trouble when we think leaders have to know everything, right? And we put this sort of really high expectations on people, but they can never meet that, right? Because we can't possibly know everything. What I think leaders should do is know when to ask questions, know when to utilize other people's expertise, know when to step back, when to let other people lead, when to sort of encourage other people's knowledge areas to join us. So should a leader know everything? I mean, should they? Maybe. Is it at all possible? Absolutely not. Are we setting ourselves up for failure if we think that leaders must know everything? No. I think when we get into trouble is when a leader feels like they have to act like they know everything. And that's when you're going to get yourself into trouble. Okay, we'll keep going on these leadership, but feel free to drop your questions in the comments. Leadership, management, coaching, those kind of things are kind of what we do on these lives. And yeah, so feel free to drop your questions here. Okay, the other one that made me laugh on this should leaders, Google filling in the blank, is should leaders be strict? I don't know. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts on these questions too. I don't think being strict is the word. I think leaders need to hold people accountable, and that they themselves have to be accountable. I think there are many people who feel like accountability is restrictive and can come across as strict. And that's where I think a lot of people struggle in the workplace, is because they either have complete lack of accountability, the lack of sort of, I want to say discipline. That's like not the right word. Boundaries, sort of. Like I think about kids and how they like to have parameters or expectations that are really spelled out, that kind of thing. And so when there isn't that, the strictness, when they face that, it may come across as strict when really it's just accountability that they've never had before. My 2 cents. So should a leader be strict? Up to you how you feel about that. Okay, welcome. If you are just joining us, I'm Alex. I'm a leadership coach. I help people like you be better leaders. I coach individuals. I help teams. All sorts of things. So feel free to drop your leadership questions here in the comments. Leadership, management, coaching, things that you are being challenged with at work, things that you're struggling with, that kind of thing, are all fair game on these lives. I won't be on live too long today because I have a call in like 20 minutes, but would love to answer some questions. Again, I was on a work trip for a week, and then I was on vacation for the next couple weeks. I haven't even been live for, feels like forever. So we're getting back into it, getting back into the swing of things this week as my kids are at camp and I actually have time to sit and go live. Okay. So we're talking about, I'm talking because I'm waiting for questions. Let's see here. Are there any certifications an org can get that show they use management best practices? That's a good question. I don't know. Like as an organization as a whole, I don't know if I've seen like a certification, because the problem with that is like you have to get almost every individual to be certified in whatever that is teaching. So, and then they have to actually do it. It's a great question. I'm not sure. I will have to look it up. I don't know. I think there are more than like certifications. What I've seen is organizations who have a commitment to leadership, a commitment to best practices. They sort of like make that their culture, right? They train their managers. They provide support for all levels of the organization. They have a very clear vision for what leadership looks like and how it's enacted. And I don't think that's like a certification, because it could be. There you go. It's your idea. Run with it. But what I think works is when an organization is aligned. They are aligned on their values. They're aligned on how they're going to lead, what that looks like, what the expectations are for the leaders in their organization, what it looks like for people to work under those leaders, right? Like to follow, to have that leadership pipeline. Like to me, it's more of a leadership culture, a culture that embraces growth, that embraces learning, embraces failure, embraces like the growth mindset. Those are the things I look for in terms of best practices for management. And that's to say, like, I think you can have a really terrible culture and have like one team like inside this company that is doing great, because I think the leader makes the difference. And maybe you can relate to this. Like you've worked for a fantastic leader, or flip side, you love your company and work for a really terrible leader, right? So I think there can be these like microcosms inside your company where people either go rogue or are following best practices, and it doesn't necessarily translate to an entire organization like it should. A lot of times that's because the company itself is out of alignment when it comes to hiring. So we're hiring people, but we're not having sort of like that same vision for what this looks like. So the easy answer would be yes. There's a certification. We take this, we can slap it on all our marketing materials, and people are going to love to work for us. The real answer is leaders are human and humans are messy, and that's probably impossible. But the good news is it's always something we can work towards and we can strive towards. And yeah, that's sort of like my thoughts on that. Great question. Yeah, copyright that idea. I love it. Okay, any other questions about leadership or management, culture, coaching, that kind of thing? Like I said, I have time before a meeting in 15 minutes to answer questions. I have been working sort of behind the scenes on the next cohort of the Brave and Purposeful Leadership Lab, which is the group program I run that's going to start in September. So if you are interested in that, you can get on the wait list. In my profile, you'll get like a little discount code when it opens up in the next week or two for registration, which gives you enough time to talk to your manager or your company to say, hey, fund this, invest in me, that kind of thing. And I give you a resource in order to do that if you're curious on like how to ask for your company to invest in you. You never know unless you ask, right? Don't give your leader, don't put words in their mouth and say they're going to say no if you don't ask. You would be surprised at how people, how they might say yes, but also how they have the funds to spend on that. A lot of times they'll say they don't. And as someone who worked in leadership and development, they do. They are just choosing to spend it differently, right? A lot of times the leadership development, learning development, whatever your company calls it, funds get tied up into marketing conferences or, executive offsites, that kind of thing. And the money's there for the most part. I won't say across the board because every company is different and depends on the size of your company. But even if you work for a small to medium-sized company, investing in their leaders can have a huge ROI. And it's just a matter of how you sort of sell that experience and what you're going to take away and make it an easy yes for them to say yes. So if that is something you are looking forward to in the fall, I know some people do stuff in the summer, but most times September hits and people are like, oh yeah, back to work. Not that you're not working. I'm just saying it's sort of this like back to school mentality that hits organizations too. Okay. Any other questions about leadership or management or coaching? I want to make sure I give enough time for you to answer before I have to hop off and jump on my call. The other thing, since I've been a little off TikTok lately, is I posted in my stories on here over the weekend, but part of the lab is doing a book club that's totally optional. Some people are like, I don't want to read. And some people want to read it. You don't have to. But anyway, we are going to be reading, I believe, I'm like 99.9% sure, so I'm just going to say yes, Radical Candor together by Kim Scott this fall, the revised version, if that matters. And so I'm super excited about this book. We've done one on trust in the past, and that was so good. I don't even have it up here to show you to recommend it. Oh wait, no, that's not it. Yes, I'm checking the piles on my desk office floor for stuff. Like I said, been gone for a couple weeks. We've read one on trust. We did confidence last time, and this time we're going to do radical candor. I think one of the themes I see with my clients and just conversations I have with leaders is not knowing what to say to give feedback, to have those difficult conversations, but not even having the confidence to want to approach those. So one of the things that we are going to focus on is using this book as a guide to have great conversations, to talk about different specific situations, but also to take action, right? one of my like philosophies, if you will, about leadership is that we can learn so much. We can learn so much about leadership. There's a million different frameworks out there. There's a million different things, books. But if we aren't going to implement what we learn, and we don't even need to implement perfectly, we just need to try and learn from it, that is where the actual true learning and growth and transformation happens. We have to take what is written, what you hear from me, you have to take these things and actually give them a go with the people that you are working with. So it will be a very action-based reading of this book, and hopefully there will be some good gems there that we can take with us to try with our teams. And teams doesn't necessarily mean at work. It could be in your community, it could be in your volunteering, it could be, you know, in your family, those kind of things. I truly believe like leadership is across the board in all areas of life. So that is one thing that we are going to do. So yeah. Marcus, love the 25 coaching questions. Yes. Seriously, number one-on-one game changer. Awesome. Yes. Thank you for that. If you have not checked it out, I have a free resource. It's 25 of my favorite coaching questions. I love a good coaching question. You can look at like my content down here. I think giving us ideas of what to ask to sort of like spice up our conversation, but to build trust and build a stronger relationship with the people we work with is so important. And so I do share a lot of coaching questions because I think that they are interesting and conversation starters, right? It's not just, what are you working on this week? It's, who are you? Who do you want to be? Tell me more about, you know, like what gets you excited at work? What do you hate about work? Where do you want to be in 10 years? How can we help you? What obstacles are happening right now that I can maybe help with or help you navigate? So that's my free resource. If you are really looking for more on one-on-ones, I actually have a one-on-one guide. It's a leadership guide that's all about how to run a really good one-on-one. That's not just tell me your to-do list this week, but it focuses on sort of like bigger picture things that as a leader you can be helping with your team develop. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. What would convince you to leave? Yeah, isn't that one so good? One of the questions in the resource is, what would convince you to leave? What would it take right now if you got an offer to walk out those doors? The caveat on all these, right, is that trust is the foundation of leadership. So if you feel like you don't have a trusting relationship, I would maybe not ask some of these questions right away and instead focus on building trust, because if you ask this question and don't have a trusting relationship, you may not get the answers or the conversation that you're wanting. But if you have that relationship and you have the ability to sort of speak freely, one of the things that like I've experienced is a true like leader as a manager doesn't care about this specific role you are in. They care about you. And so having a question like this, like what would it take for you to leave, is such a great question to have this conversation, to say like, what are the things that we don't have, that we're not supporting you in, that would make you walk, or that would make you even consider leaving? Because if I'm your manager, I want to know that. I want to know sort of about your experience and what's affecting like your happiness at work, your satisfaction, like your finding meaningfulness and purpose in your work. All those are things that, while I may not be able to specifically like make you happy, not the role of a leader, I want to know what are like the unnecessary challenges or obstacles that are getting in your way. That is my job, to sort of see if like I can help remove some of those obstacles to help you do your work better. So anyway, Marcus, thank you. Check that out. It's in the link in my profile. I always say this, but like I feel like if you hit the follow button, it's up here. That helps. I don't know. Okay. Any last questions about leadership or management? anything like that. Like I said, you can get on the Leadership Lab wait list in my profile too. That's going to be opening up in the next week or so. I'm really excited about some of the changes that are coming to the program. Bringing back one of like my passion projects is a book box where you can add this on to your, it's not even a membership, just add it on to your program and I'll send you a box with the book we're reading and some awesome goodies, snail mail style. So fun. It might have to be like US only, I gotta say, but I'm working on the details right now. So that's why it's not open for registration yet. Okay. A simple one, how to give feedback on writing skills. Yeah. Always when we're giving feedback, we want to think about like the performance versus the person. So I would think about for writing skills, like what is the intent behind what they're trying to communicate versus what's actually being communicated, and focus on that. If it's specifics, like, no, I feel like every time I talk about grammar, I'm like, is it bad grammar? Is it poor grammar? Like, I don't know what the correct grammar is. If it's like grammar or punctuation or like things like that, I would have very specific examples where you can show them like, here's what I'm talking about. And that goes for like all feedback. Anytime we can be specific about it. And then also, I had one more thing that I was going to say about writing skills, and now it's totally blanking. Have examples, the performance. I don't know. It'll come to me. Like I said, we'll figure it out. I'm not sure. But yeah, so I would have like pull up examples of writing skills. I would, if you know, like, sometimes when people are new, people like read them before they send them. You don't want to get in that habit too long because it's kind of demeaning, but also like it takes a lot of time. But you could say like, here are some like key things I use over and over again. Like, let me give you my templates. Like if it's that kind of writing, I don't know, you'd have to maybe be a little bit more specific on this. If it's just like emails or presentations or I don't know, work product, that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. I have to go. Thank you all for joining. Make sure you are following along. Check out my free resource, 25 of my favorite coaching questions, if you are needing a good resource for questions to ask your team. And I will see you next time. All right. Bye.